Company.
Phone rings, door chimes.
In comes company.
Robert!
Hi, everybody. I'm not doing that. Oh my god, that was obnoxious. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Call Time, a theater pod. Woohoo! First episode. Shut up. This pod is to talk all things theater, all of it, because we are here to laugh, learn, and sometimes call out the chaos. Sign in on the sheet, because it's call time. All right, so I am here with someone who I would normally say needs no introduction, but most of you have no idea who he is. But aren't you lucky that you get to know him now? Right here, we have the amazing, stupendous, wonderful, talented, my best friend, Sean Sassaman.
Marisa, thank you so much for having me. You said stupendous, and I thought you were going to say stupid.
I meant to say stupid.
And honestly, I wouldn't have blamed you.
I mean, at least we're honest.
I mean, that's what we've always been.
And you know what? I couldn't think of a better person to have as my first guest because you and I talk theater every day almost.
Yeah.
Almost every day.
I mean, at least weekly.
Yeah.
Because
bi-weekly, depending on if
yeah,
you're doing
because
a show.
either there's news or one of us is doing a show or, you know, we want to go or see something new that we want to freak out and see together.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So here's some things that are going to be coming up on today's show.
There's a certain lack of shame that you need to have in the theater industry.
Yeah. And I mean, what a wonderful thing to share with other people in a movie theater.
I'm talking directly to Ryan Murphy right now.
Besides, yell at him and say, "Stop taking pictures right now!" So he dies.
Yeah. If you didn't click away fast enough, I'm sorry.
Wasn't that great? Wasn't that a great show? We're doing so well.
That was unhinged.
Welcome to the show. So I have to ask you a question.
Okay.
This is very important to me because whenever I talk about theater to, you know, people within the industry, outside of the industry, you know, a lot of people look at theater people and think, ooh, cringe.
The ooh said everything.
Ooh, cringe, you know, the theater kid stigma and all of that. But in my heart of hearts, I really believe that there is good theater cringe and bad theater cringe. And I would love to know what you consider good theater cringe and bad theater cringe.
Well, I'll tell you bad theater cringe right off the bat.
That's usually how it starts.
Flash mobs.
The 2010 to 2012 era.
Yep,
specific?
just randomly bursting out into song in a public place. Ryan Murphy, you cursed us with glee. I'm talking directly to Ryan Murphy right now.
If you're not Ryan Murphy, you can just skip ahead.
It lived its life. It can stop. And I think for the most part, it has stopped. But I think there is still this natural urge or desire that when you hear something when you hear a song that you are very passionate about, you want other people to know how passionate you are about it. And there's a certain lack of shame that you need to have in the theater industry.
Yeah.
And I think that just spurs on the willingness to burst forth into song without thinking, how am I affecting the people around me right now?
I agree. However, there is one particular flash mob that I still will be like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and watch this. And it was a flash mob. Oh God, I don't even remember when it was, but it was a theater company, I want to say in Florida, that did a One Day More flash mob in an airport or a mall. And it was like people in everyday clothing. And here's the thing, one, it sounded phenomenal. It sounded phenomenal, but the thing that kills me the most is, do you remember this time in specifically America when people would wear like bouncy moon shoes, but it only had like a like a half moon on the bottom and they bounce around on those.
Yes.
There was an ensemble member who was running around with those, and I'm pretty sure they also were doing the flag, which makes a lot of sense, but I don't remember. All I remember is her in those shoes and her hair in a ponytail with a baseball cap, and I thought, she's the main character.
Yeah, that's main character energy right there.
And she was probably like the Soprano 2 line, so.
And I think that's, if you're gonna do a flash mob, please, for the love of God, make sure everyone in the flash mob wants to be there.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing more awkward. Moment of honesty.
Yes.
When I was in high school, my choir did a flash mob, and half of us did not want to be there. Mm-hmm. So it was awkward for everybody.
Yeah. I also did... God, I can't believe I'm about to say what I'm about to say. I've done many flash mobs, I'll admit it. I have done many of them willingly. But one in particular that I will never forget is... Hear me out now. When I transferred schools, went to a different college, and I did Avenue Q my first semester there. We did a flash mob of the Avenue Q theme with the puppets.
Yeah.
In the middle of the student center. And the faces of just
confusion,
like, confused and horrified.
Yeah.
You know, because, like, yeah, it's Sesame Street looking puppets per se, with the exception of Lucy, but, like, it's still weird to suddenly be approached by not just any person, but a theater person with a puppet singing in your face.
There's some degree of, like, because you mentioned doing that, like, on your college campus, there's a degree of that that's, I don't know if I want to say acceptable, but it's permissible. Whereas if you're going to a public place like, I don't know, a farmer's market,
You didn't tell me that.
and singing Christmas carols, I don't know if people necessarily asked to hear Carol of the Bells while they're picking out oranges.
Mine Christmas Carol's flash mob story was in a plant store.
Did you sing "Oh Christmas Tree"?
You know what? No.
Because
We didn't.
That would have been acceptable.
Agreed. Instead, we sang... Oh, God, this is an arrangement that I sang since middle school. It's the Nutcracker Suite set to the lyrics of Jingle Bells. So... Jingle, jingle,
If you're
jingle,
just listening,
jingle bells.
if you're just listening to the podcast and you're not watching the audio or the visual version of this, the face of confusion that I just made needs to be studied. We don't need to do the Hallelujah chorus every year.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
As someone who sang tenor in high school, no, we don't.
Do it right now.
No. I'm not holding a 24 count of King of Kings.
And Lord of Lords.
And Lord of Lords.
Not only King of Kings.
But also Lord of Lords. Shout out to Lord.
Shout out to Lord, my pears. So now that we've had that, what's your good theater cringe then?
For me, like, a good theater cringe is impressive. So it's, if you can go from having a normal conversation with someone, and God, I wish I could do this right now for the bit, but, like, having a normal conversation with someone, and then suddenly you're launched into a Shakespearean sonnet.
Ooh.
Just, like, out of nowhere.
I'm trying to think of... Has that been done?
I mean, I'm sure it has. I'm sure people can just, like, suddenly be talking and then, like, legitimately go into tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow.
I mean, sure, let's...
I can't do that. Mostly because I don't know the monologue.
Well, now
because
you
can bet your ass that if I knew that monologue, I'd be reciting it constantly.
So if you learned it, if we literally, after we cut, learn the monologue tonight...
I mean, it's going to take me more than a night. It'll take me until tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. See what I did there?
That's some good content right there, yeah. All right, so to get into our main topic of the day, which is theater etiquette. Specifically, audience theater etiquette. This is a conversation that I have constantly. I'm sure all of you have constantly. I'm sure you've had many times. I don't know if constantly is even the right word to use here, but I have it a lot. And in recent news, theater news, I think the main topic of conversation is Wicked, the movie, which I loved. I had a really great time. But the conversation of whether or not we should be allowed to sing during the movie. And how do we feel about that?
Well, listen.
All right, I'm gonna sit.
Okay, here we go. Even before they announced that they were doing special screenings that were going to be sing-along versions, I was not for it. Cynthia Erivo, I will fight you on this. Actually, don't fight me. Your nails will probably like claw my eyes out, and I respect you entirely. But if I, as a person, and as a theater person, and as a person who is in the life of performing arts, I would never go to a movie musical adaptation and sing along, because I know there are other people there who don't want that. They paid the money to see and hear the movie, not Becky in the back row, who might be a great singer. She also might not be.
I'm with you on this. I think it's because the argument that people have been giving is like, well, you know, if you're enjoying yourself and you're feeling the music and you know the lyrics, why shouldn't you sing along? And that's why you do it at home, or if the theater is empty, you know, or at a special sing-along screening, which I love that happened, because of course we want people to feel the joy and feel like they can break into song with the characters. There's a lot of emotions. I sobbed for almost the whole thing.
Oh, the entirety of Dancing Through Life. I was like curled up in a ball in my seat.
Yeah.
It's so strange to me that this is a conversation that came up because of the Wicked movie, because there have been, you know, movie musical adaptations for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And I don't remember this being a conversation 10 years ago when Into the Woods came out. Before that, when Les Miserables came out.
Yeah.
Even like back when you had, I mean, arguably the music of those shows is not great for suddenly bursting into, although I'm not opposed to suddenly bursting into the witches rap.
I mean, true.
That's a cool, like,
true.
If you can launch into that,
yeah. But it's also different with, like, we're separating this from, like, Disney movies, you know?
Yeah.
Because Disney movies you kind of expect.
Well, and this is also, you know, Wicked just recently celebrated its 21st anniversary.
Yeah.
So this is music that's been out for a very long time, and people are very familiar with, especially our generation, because this was like the big show.
Yeah, this was our Phantom, essentially.
Yeah. And it's a show that, you know, we grew up listening to, and then it exploded in popularity when Glee did it. Ryan Murphy. But this wasn't something like, even something with like when the Mamma Mia musical, and even the sequel,
which I didn't see.
Neither have I, which is shocking considering how much I love Cher. Something like a Mamma Mia or a Hairspray, which has music that's very singable and very catchy and very fun.
Yes.
This conversation about singing along in the movie theater didn't happen with those.
No.
Until eventually they decided to do special screenings that were sing-along versions.
Which are so much fun.
Because that's the one you take your friends to go see and you have a great time.
I hope that this continues to be a trend specifically for musical adaptations, because it's still, you know, it was fine for revenue. Ticket sales were at an all-time high. Yeah. What did they say? It was like Wicked and Gladiator 2 were like the top of the box office, which is great for both genres. But you know, I think specifically for musicals, if you already have sing-along screenings to begin with. Yeah. You know, especially if it's a musical that has been out and people have access to the music, have that already accessible.
Yeah.
That way people who, you know, want to be there for their own experience can have that.
Especially, and it's so easy for theaters to do that nowadays because they'll be showing the same movie on 3 different screens.
Yes, exactly.
So you can dedicate one screen to just the sing-along versions and like keep that one separate from the other ones, because we all know not all movie theaters are soundproof.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when I saw Wicked, I couldn't tell if we heard Gladiator from the other screen or something else, but it was during like some of the more, you know, gentle, quiet parts of the movie, and I just hear like, bah, 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 bah!
Yeah, no, that a very similar thing happened. I don't remember what movie I was going to see, but I was walking to the screening room where that movie was being shown, and one of the other theaters that I passed on the way there suddenly like erupted into a gunfire scene. And my friend who I was with was holding a bag of popcorn and visibly and there was just like a small avalanche of popcorn that came cartoony out. Yeah, it was very funny.
Love that.
We stood in the hallway laughing for about 5 minutes and then continued on our way.
See, memories. That's why going to the movies again is such a wonderful thing and shouldn't be ruined by people singing along when you're supposed to just enjoy it, digest it, feel immersed by it. That's great, but like it's also respect. It's a respect for the audience experience.
Yeah.
I am curious to hear what some other people will have to say about this when they watch it, because I encourage the conversation. Yeah. You know? And, you know, the special things that come with this movie, I want to be able to enjoy that for the first time as well, because it's a new experience for everybody. Yeah. And, I mean, what a wonderful thing to share with other people in a movie theater. Yeah. You know, if you don't want people talking through your movie, I don't want people singing through it either.
Yeah, exactly.
And I not sorry.
Yeah. I mean, put it this way. If they did a movie version of Hamlet, let's say, you wouldn't sit there and recite the monologues with the people on the screen.
Maybe you wouldn't.
Well,
no, I wouldn't either. I would lip sync.
I would lip sync for my life.
Seriously, lip syncing? You lip sync.
Lip sync.
Oh my God.
For the love of God, lip sync.
Lip sync for your life.
Lip sync. Like, do the arms.
Yeah. Feel the emotions.
Feel it. Just keep the vocal cords still.
And now this would be the time that we would have an ad read, but I haven't gotten those yet, so we're just going to sit here and stare at the camera.
See what's all here.
Yeah, take a look. It's a treasure trove.
Company. Phone rings, door chimes.
In comes company.
Robert.
I love.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Stephen.
This is written by a Stephen, and you. Oh. My dad's name is Stephen.
Bringing us back. So, topic at hand, audience, theater etiquette. I would love to bring up some specific moments in theater history of disruptions from audience members and how they were handled. Because some of them were handled well, and some of them were not handled as well. And I would love to talk about, like, not even just like a who, like, am I the asshole for telling the audience to shut up? You know, that kind of thing. But, like, you know, it's a two-way street. Yeah. I think. The first one I wrote down was when Eddie Redmayne, during Cabaret, was grabbed by an audience member who was, you know, inebriated, but, like, just groped him. And he, from what I understand, you know, got away and didn't really draw any attention to it. Right. Do you think that was handled well?
I mean, yes, because it was a potentially disrupting moment that was sort of brushed off, but I would want to make sure that, like, Eddie was okay after the situation. Yeah. And I'm sure, like, management at the theater handled all of that. I mean, that's a moment that should never happen.
Yeah, I mean, audiences are not owed anything, especially in an intimate space like that. You do not touch.
Yeah, you don't
touch.
Like, theater contains a lot of great things, but physical connection between audience and performer is not always one of those.
Yeah.
And that brings up another thing of don't get drunk if you're going to see a show.
Like, sure, you can have a drink.
Have a drink.
But, like,
Lord knows I have.
Yeah. But, like, you're also in public, like, not at a bar situation.
Yes.
You know, and even in a bar situation, you should be aware of your surroundings and, like...
And this also goes, like, this goes for concerts as well. Like, this isn't just a theater thing. It goes for any kind of live performance.
Another one I have here is, so David Tennant is currently, either is currently or was doing a production of the Scottish play, which I am going to just mouth the word and probably in post say the word of the show because this is a performance space right now and I don't want to curse it, so... and... Sue me.
Y'all know. If you don't know, Google it.
Sue me. So from my understanding, an audience member left to go to the bathroom or something. That's fine. Okay. It happens.
In the middle, like not during intermission, but in the middle.
In the middle of the show, it happens. I get it. Sometimes we can't control our bladders. It's okay.
Yeah.
He went to the bathroom, but then for this specific performance, or the show in general, they ask that if you do leave, there are certain times when you can go back in and an usher will escort you.
Yeah.
Okay? This person was not having it and would, like, burst through, started yelling about how he needs to get to his seat, and the show had to come to a complete stop. Because they were disrupting so much, and David, from my understanding, he, was confused, as everyone else would be, but, he was escorted off stage.
Yeah.
But the audience member just kept screaming that he deserved to be back in his seat. He paid for his seat and blah, 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 blah. And that's...
I mean, yes, he paid for his seat, but so did everybody else.
Exactly.
And if you're going to disrupt all of them, what is the price of your ticket?
Yeah.
This feeds into, like... Again, I feel like this is such a generational thing of, like, entitlement.
Yeah.
And just, like, yes... There's a million ways this conversation can go in terms of like the entitlement of it all, the fact that ticket prices are far too expensive for the most part. I think a lot of support small theater companies that are like local and in your area, support them.
Yes.
They're often doing really great work for incredibly cheap tickets compared to, a $200 ticket for a show on Broadway. And that's just one of those instances of, because he mentioned the fact that he paid for his ticket. And it goes back to the thing with the Wicked sing-alongs of like, I paid for my ticket too, and now you're causing me to have a bad time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
The street goes both ways.
Absolutely. Do you remember in 2015, for the play of Hand to God, there was an audience member who legitimately got up on stage during intermission because there was an outlet and they charged their phone? Do you remember that? Because I remember that. I was furious then and I'm furious now.
That is such a, like...
The audacity.
Like, first of all, safety hazard.
Yeah.
Of, like, if there was anything on that stage, especially during an intermission.
Yes.
Where things are moving.
Yes.
Like, they could have been hit by a piece of equipment.
Yeah. Or electrocuted by the outlet, because who knows if that was even, like, properly wired. It was, I'm sure. But, like...
Who knows if it could have held that much capacity? Like, what if there were other things, like practical effects?
Yep. It killed me because, like, there's video of the guy climbing on stage to plug in his phone.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a bit. I really did, because why would anyone do that?
Yeah.
But...
That's like me walking up to the sound booth at a Taylor Swift concert and being like, hey, I'm just going to charge my iPad really quick.
Yeah. Don't worry, I know how to work these things. I know where to plug it in.
It's entitlement. It's not even confidence. It's like arrogance that you understand the workings of everything.
There is one that I remember when this happened, and I was like, this guy is such a professional. Death of a Salesman, Wendell Pierce.
Okay.
There was an audience member who was being extremely disruptive, yelling, screaming. They were inebriated, like they were not... Wendell decides to pause and negotiate calmly with this audience member saying, you know, everyone here paid tickets to see this show. If you need to leave now, I will buy you another ticket to come back, but otherwise you need to leave. And he was, there's also video footage of this. He's such a pro, just, it's so interesting. He's just so calm about it. And he's just trying to like fix de-escalate, fix the situation, which he does not have to do. He did not have to do any of that, but he decided to take it upon himself and trying to reason with this person.
And what an interesting, I love that you used the word negotiate because it was Death of a Salesman.
I know.
Because that feels like such an in-character thing too. To the point where at first I was like, was it a bit? Was it like did they do rewrites?
By the way, quick side note, I once knew somebody who was Willy Loman in a production of Death of a Salesman, and they said they delivered a line and it got a few laughs. And for some reason, that just clicked in his head, and he said out loud, "Oh, it's a comedy," and then proceeded to add lines.
Oh no.
And go off as the new.
Yeah, now suddenly it's Comedy of a Salesman.
Comedy of Errors, more like it. Until you got it.
Buyer's remorse.
And of course, I can't talk about disruptions.
The one. The
only. Say it with me now. 1, 2, 3. Stop
Patti
taking
LuPone!
pictures right now. Same thing.
Well, yeah.
Same thing.
We were on parallel paths.
It's
like when you're driving on a 2-lane street and you see your friend in the lane next to you.
For those that may not know what this is, or don't remember what this is, basically what happened is that Patti LuPone, the incredible Patti LuPone, was playing Mama Rose in Gypsy, and this was like 2008. I think. 2008, 2009.
Something in that
And
area,
there was like a press photographer in the audience that night.
I didn't know it was a press photographer.
From my understanding, it was, I may be wrong. Listen, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I totally am fine with that.
Fact checkers.
Thank you.
I can't wait for the little pop-up that says it was not a press photographer or whatever.
Oh, whatever. But either way, there was a photographer taking flash photography during Rose's turn, you know, the big climactic part at the end, and Patti, you know, is in her moment. She is living in that moment, and she just decides to call out this audience member, which she is known for doing, and listen, God love her for it, but she, you know, just decides to yell at him and say, "Stop taking pictures right now!" Oh God, that's an awful impression. Please don't kill me. I'm gonna we'll put stuff over that.
Stop taking pictures right now!
I mean, the kicker is that it was flash photography.
Right, which is so fucking dumb.
Which, like, is not just... You hear it in every curtain speech and every, like, pre-show announcement.
And there's always someone who tries.
Of, like, no photography, period. It's distracting both to the people on stage and your fellow audience members.
Yeah. And so that's stuff that comes from, you know, things I looked up. But now I want to know if you have any experiences with bad audience etiquette.
Nothing so much to that effect. Some really good, like, I have a really pleasant example of 2019. I did a production of Thornton Wilder's Our Town. And at the beginning of Act 3, as the stage manager character is giving their whole, you know, life is beautiful monologue, basically, the fire alarm goes off.
Oh.
And there's a brief moment where I was not playing the stage manager. I was the stage manager of
so
this.
Meta.
It's such an important distinction to make. So I was up in our booth, you know, working lights and everything. And this happens, and me and the, like, 4 people in the booth with me, because the booth for this show was so jank. That's a story for another day. We all just kind of stopped and looked at each other, and we're like, is the fire alarm going off right now?
The question of, like...
And I watched our stage manager, who was in the middle of this monologue, she stopped because we had a female stage manager,
Cool.
which was a really cool,
That's awesome.
a black female stage manager as
Love
well,
that.
which was wonderful, and
Oh.
it gave the show a whole lot more depth. But she stopped and kind of looked to me for what to do. And it was this wonderful moment where I could see the audience was also confused as to what was happening. And it was just very quick. We're going to take a brief pause while we investigate what's happening. We'll give you more information if we need to leave or if this is just like a false alarm.
Yeah.
Turns out it was a false alarm. It was
good.
an old fire system because it was in like a historic building.
The show was just too good.
And it was just like a piece of dust got caught by the sensor and set it off.
The dust of time.
Yep. So we took a pause, we investigated, made sure everything was okay, and then picked the show back up. I conferred with the cast to make sure we found a good spot to start again. We jumped right back into it. And then while that was happening, unbeknownst to me, our front of house manager at the time was keeping the fire department from coming in and disrupting the show again.
Oh, God.
Which I didn't find out until after the fact.
That would have been a very interesting addition.
Because obviously the alarm went off, so the fire department showed up.
I think Mr. Wilder would have enjoyed that.
He was probably rolling in his grave.
Like a hot dog.
It was really great that everybody in the building kept it kind of under control. There was no immediate panic. Nobody like got up and sprinted for an exit.
Cool.
It was a great instance of the audience trusting the people at the theater
Wonderful.
to not just supply them with, the wonderful experience of seeing a live performance, but to also keep them safe.
That is a great story.
Yeah.
I love that. I wish I could say the same about my experience, because there's two in particular that immediately come to mind that
Hit me with them. Okay. Well, it's been nice being here.
So actually the first one, this is going to be a shout out to my mom and dad, because this involves both of you, and I know you know exactly what stories I'm going to tell, and not just because I asked you permission to tell them. So the first one that I'm going to talk about it happened with my mom. We went to go see the 2012 revival of Evita. With Ricky Martin and Elena Roger. I loved it. I personally had a great time, and we were sitting front mezz. This is very important.
Okay.
So front mezz was fairly empty.
Okay.
Okay. It was a matinee.
Okay.
We love a matinee.
I love going to matinees.
Yeah. And so we're like third row back, front mezz, and on like right angle from me is this guy just sitting alone in the section, and in the middle of in the middle of the show, he decides, you know what, now is a really great time to take off my shoes, take off my socks, put my feet up on the railing, and clip my toenails.
And
I really wish I was kidding.
clip his toenails.
And the only reason I knew that is because I heard the sound of clippers. And I have night vision, and I'm able to see. And I got like a shine off of the clippers, and
I want to know.
I really wish I was joking.
I want to know the story of the people who were underneath where he was.
You know what?
And had to deal with toenail clipping.
Ryan Murphy. Now's your chance.
American audience story.
American audience story. It's still a horror story. No, but I remember because I got up and got an usher.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, you're never going to believe this. You won't believe in a million years what's happening.
I have to tell you something.
And so I told them, and they're like, I'm sorry? I was like, you can go see. He's sitting right there. And they went over, and they're like, sir, you can't do that here.
Yeah.
And like, he wasn't drinking. He wasn't drunk.
Stone cold sober.
He was just
a man
nails.
clipping his...
Just a man clipping his dirty feet.
I'm glad he was, like, clipping his toenails. That's a thing we should all do.
Yeah, but like in the middle of Act 2 of Evita...
Don't do it there.
She's dying! She's on Rainbow High, and she's dying, and you're clipping your toenails?
Okay.
And you want to know... Here's the worst part. So the usher said, you can't do that. You have to stop. You can either stop or you can leave. He's like, no, I'll stay. I'm able to hear this conversation. And the usher goes away, and then he just gets right back to it.
Oh, God.
He gets right back to it, and the usher hadn't even fully left. Like, had turned around to check.
Turned around, like,
and
oh
literally
my
just
God.
came and got him and left.
That's absurd.
And to this day, I will never
That's
that.
a great story to tell, though.
But I love that story, but it does... I love that story just as much as the second one, which involves me and my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say this for the record, that my parents also work in the industry, and they are very aware of policies and procedures. Now, we went to go see a high school production of Carousel, because a friend of mine was in it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are you familiar with Carousel?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, in my opinion, it's one of the best works by Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Agreed. I would have to agree. I know that a lot of people think otherwise.
Mostly because it breaks a lot of conventions.
Yes.
Of shows of that time.
Yes, agreed. But so because you're aware of this, you're also aware of how long the show is. Yeah. And so
it's a Rodgers and Hammerstein show. Of course it's long.
Of course it's be long. But what happened is, so this particular production, I don't know who their musical director was or why they decided to make this choice, but maybe it was because it was high schoolers and they really like underestimated their talents, but they decided to slow everything down. So I will say that the show was exactly 3 hours and 5 minutes.
For a high school show.
For a high school production of Carousel. Keep this in mind, please. Okay. So, spoilers for Carousel. Just letting you know. So Billy dies.
Yeah. If you didn't click away fast enough, I'm sorry.
So he's dead.
Yeah.
Well, he dies specifically by falling on the knife, right?
Yeah.
Remember, this is a very long show.
Mm-hmm.
And we're very into this. He dies, and the staging of this was very awkward, meaning that it was not good.
Yeah.
It was extremely awkward. And, like, this is nothing against the kids in this. This is nothing against anybody, really. High school theater can just be awkward, especially when it comes to very serious situations.
I mean, if you want to talk about theater cringe, some of the best theater cringe is a high school show.
That's a whole thing. I consider that good theater cringe.
Yeah.
Depending on the show.
Yep.
But, so he awkwardly falls off this dock that they had, and all you hear is just,
Yep.
And it's dead silent.
Yep.
And then my dad's phone goes off, but it's a text tone. But my dad had a very particular text tone at the time, which was Vincent Price's laugh at the end of Thriller.
What a twisted thing. What a very twisted thing.
And for those that know my dad, you know that he was, like, dying inside. And we were all dying inside because it's like, oh my God, I can't believe that someone's laughing at Billy's death. Specifically, Vincent Price from Beyond the Grave. If you don't know what that sounds like, here's a clip of it. Amazing. So you could see how awkward that would be. But what kills me even more is that who called? My mom, asking why we weren't home yet. Is the show really that long?
Stop. Oh my God, the 1-2 punch.
The 1-2 punch, which honestly, really tracks for me and my family. And
That's incredible.
it's my favorite story to this day. Dad, I love you. This is my favorite story because, you know, of all people, this happened to you.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry.
Truly, shout out.
But it truly lightened the whole mood the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the show just, like, you know, it's still slogged, but, like...
Yeah, and Carousel is not, by all means, it's not the most sad show in the world. It's heavy.
Yeah.
But it's, I
It
think...
has its moments.
Well, now I want Carousel as a comedy.
It's a comedy! Death of a Salesman,
Death of a
Carousel
Salesman.
as a comedy!
I mean...
Bring in Willie Loman and we'll be...
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's something that I will never, ever forget.
That's so incredible. And it is made better by the fact that it was your dad.
Yeah, and it's my favorite thing to this day.
That's so funny.
All this being said about our own experiences and, you know, things that have happened on Broadway and West End and stuff, how can we change the pattern or encourage the pattern to be changed when it comes to audience etiquette?
I think it starts at the door. I think, you know, pre-show announcements and curtain speeches can do so much, but at this point they're more of a reminder than a directive.
Yeah.
I think, you know, there's so much time when you get to the theater before the show actually starts that I think it needs to be said right away, like, even if it's just like an insert in the program of make sure your phone is turned off, because how many times are audience members actually listening to the curtain speech? Because the curtain speech is, okay, time now to, like, make sure I'm seated comfortably, make sure, like, my bladder's been flooded out.
Because there's always also, at least from my experience, between the curtain speech and start of show, there's usually like another 2 or 3 minutes.
True.
You know, so which is used to do these things, like turn off your phone, crinkle up your candies and popcorn and stuff. And I think that, you know, in order to consistently keep this as a reminder rather than a directive, I think people just genuinely need to understand that you are not in the comfort of your own home. You are in a public place.
Yes.
Again, similar to being at the movies, this is a shared experience.
Yeah.
And if you don't want somebody interrupting your time, why would you do it to somebody else's?
Exactly.
You know, and of course we all want to have fun. Of course, even if it's a 3-hour production of Carousel.
Yeah.
But, like, it's just empathy.
Yeah.
And decency.
Yep.
And manners.
Yeah.
Manners matter. They really, really do. And I genuinely worry sometimes. The increasing amount of, you know, just disorderly conduct in a theater space by audience members. You know, I mean, we'll do this for another conversation in another episode, but that also goes for, like, stage dooring and the awful decline that has becomes.
Yeah. It comes back to, like, nobody owes you anything.
No.
When it comes to stage dooring, when it comes to the guy who at the Scottish play was like, I deserve to see this because I paid ticket.
I want to see David Tennant.
You paid a ticket to be in that room. It is how you spend your time in that room. Ultimately, it is up to you.
We're going to do a fun little game that I am workshopping the title of, and I'm calling it The Green Room Games.
She's workshopping it because I hate it.
Yeah, he really hates it. And, I mean, here's the thing. I think it's cute. I think it's really cute. But I know we're in a paper.
Good theater cringe and bad theater cringe.
I am good theater cringe. Anyway, so the game we're going to play today, I lovingly call Scene Stealer. And what we're going to do is that we are going to choose a show. You get to choose a show.
Okay.
And self-insert into the show. It doesn't have to be as a specific character. It can be as Sean.
Okay.
And I want to know how you would affect the storyline. And would you get an A plot or a B plot?
Okay. This would be a character inserted into the show that you would believe starts out as a B plot. And then it becomes an A plot that is so prevalent that it stops the show like halfway. Like the show would be half as long. Because my self-insert
I can't wait.
is that in the musical Dear Evan Hansen,
Oh my god, here we go.
Zoe Murphy needs a queer best friend who sees through the of Evan Hansen and his best friend's like vaguely homophobic jokes,
Yeah.
calls him out on it by the end of Act 1, and then the show ends with Evan alone.
That is not the direction I thought this was gonna go in. So instead of you will be found, you're like, no, I found out. You
Yes.
are found.
Yes.
And I don't like it.
Yes. You will be found. More like you around and now found out.
Now, that's amazing. I genuinely would probably enjoy this a lot. But I have to ask you, would you wear a wig similar to Ben Platt's in the movie?
Dear God, no.
Correct.
Mostly because could you imagine me with curly hair like that?
Honestly, no.
Good.
I love your hair.
I mean,
I love your hair.
I've been graying since I was 15, and it's really funny to now hear my like fellow 30-year-old friends being like, I'm graying. I'm like, girl, half my life. Half my life.
You know what? I think I would definitely accept your scene stealing, and I think that would be an amazing improvement. I would love to know what all of you think. Would you watch that? Because I would. Awesome.
The show also just needs more characters that are minorities.
Yes.
I'll say it.
Yep. Agreed. But yeah, that's another episode too.
Ding.
Okay, so as we're closing up around here, I wanted to ask you, the audience, how you felt about audience theater etiquette. And I'm so happy that I got such a response that I did. And I'll be asking more questions like this, so if you want to give us a follow on our Instagram, you'll be able to see these questions first. And you might be able to even see some exclusive content on our Patreon. I know, because what you want is more of this. Point being, let's see what y'all have to say about audience etiquette. All right, our first comment is from Alicia, who says that there were people talking through the entire show that she was sitting at. Yeah, that's pretty common. It seems to be happening more and more frequently, like just full-on conversations.
Yeah, and I think part of it is, it is the shared experience and you want to share it with friends and people you know. And
But this isn't the share show.
no. Share, S-H-A-R.
We'll put the difference up
Yeah,
on screen.
please.
See, this is one, and this is the other.
Yes.
They are not the same.
Yeah. And it again goes back to this, like, yes, you paid for a ticket, but the ticket price gets you in the door.
Yeah.
It does not give you the right to say and do whatever you want.
Next one is from Carrie, who says, not just phones, but people also moving around, getting up and being disruptive whenever they want.
I can see it. That's one of those very tricky things because there are some people who they might have a medical condition.
Yeah.
Where sitting for extended periods of time becomes uncomfortable for them.
Yeah.
In which case, I hope they at least bought an end seat to make that as
Yes.
minimally disruptive as possible. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind in this conversation of, yes, sometimes an emergency happens and you get a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you're making the effort to make that as minimally disruptive as possible, by all means, like, have your emergency.
Yeah, absolutely. We got another one here from Sean, who said, another Sean,
Oh.
except it's spelled with a W.
Oh, so they spelled it wrong.
Well, anyway, he has to say, he calls it phone faces. It literally cracks me up how many people are completely oblivious to the spotlight they've put on their faces by looking at their phone during a show.
You can turn that phone brightness down all the way. There is still light coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can see it.
Yep.
We can absolutely see it.
Not just the people on the stage, but also the people behind you, likely in the booth.
Yep.
They can see it too.
Yep. Absolutely. Can't stand it. Cannot stand it. Oh, okay, so another one we have, this person says, this anonymous person, says, I was at Moulin Rouge, and people were singing through the entire show and taking flash photography.
That's...
This is something I've heard a lot specifically about the Moulin Rouge production on Broadway and on tour, because it's Moulin Rouge and it's that kind of experience.
The music is accessible.
Yes. And here's the thing, I have not seen it.
Mm-hmm.
I have been told that on tour there were instances where they were encouraging the audiences to sing, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
They gave you permission.
Yeah.
But if you're just going to sing along, like...
Yeah. Other people paid a ticket too.
I went to the Oklahoma revival.
Okay.
Okay? It's brand new. It had some cool, interesting, different new things, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I went to the Oklahoma revival, and there was an old woman there who obviously thought this was the traditional version, which is very different, kept shouting, "Wrong!" throughout the show, as well as making scoffing noises throughout.
I mean, scoffing noises, I think, are reasonable,
Fine.
but shouting wrong is, like, what are you, at home watching Jeopardy?
Wrong! What is the Oklahoma revival?
That's so... That reminds me, one of my favorite stories from one of my other favorite podcasts, besides this one, is My Favorite Murder.
Yeah, shout out.
Because I'm a
Collab.
true crime girly at heart.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite stories that they always tell is they did a live show, and there were apparently, I think it was 2 women in the audience who thought they were seeing the sequel to The Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera 2, Electric Boogaloo.
And it's just, if you're gonna pay a ticket price to see something, maybe do a little looking into what you're going to see.
Just a little bit. You don't have to spoil yourself in terms of, like, finding out full plot, but, like, you should know. Can you imagine a sequel to Phantom of the Opera? Actually, there is one.
There is one.
There is one. I forgot. I completely forgot about Love Never Dies.
There is.
A lot of
we all
people.
should.
Hot take. I mean, not that hot.
I like cats. There's
So
a
do
hot
I.
take.
I love cats.
We're gonna die on this hill together.
Yes, we are. Meow.
Although the 2020 movie.
Oh no, we're not talking about that.
No.
No. That's not what we mean. Please.
Except for Jennifer Hudson. Like, that was.
Yeah, and oh god, I'm forgetting his name. Robbie Fairchild, who played Skimbleshanks. The Railway Cat. Best. The best.
Wonderful times.
Wonderful times. Anyway, so this last one that I have is also from an anonymous source who said that they saw Kathleen Turner in The Graduate on Broadway in 2002. If you're not familiar with The Graduate, I highly recommend looking at the movie. The play version that was adapted by Terry Johnson is also very good. But so Kathleen Turner was playing Mrs. Robinson, where, if you're not familiar, on stage, she gets completely naked. Okay? Complete, total frontal nudity. She disrobed as Mrs. Robinson, and someone in the audience shouted, "Ew, put your clothes back on." Now, that's just rude.
That's appalling on 2 levels.
Disgusting, honestly.
That's appalling on the level of you yelling about a design choice at theater.
Yeah.
Which, save that for the car ride home.
Yeah.
But also,
Don't do notes in
to
house.
say that to a woman who is, she was how old at that time? Like in her 40s?
Probably in her 40s, I would assume.
Like, that's completely unacceptable.
Unacceptable behavior. And like I can't even imagine how she felt in that moment. And I'm hoping that she didn't hear it, but like,
I mean, I'm sure she did.
Yeah.
My God.
It makes me think of that episode of Smash where Ivy accidentally gets naked as Marilyn Monroe.
Yep.
And like everyone's like, the naked body.
Here's my advice. If you're going to see a show and you want to take notes, bring a little journal.
Yeah.
Write them down.
Yeah. There's
There's usually enough like ambient light in the theater that you can see what you're writing. Because for the love of God, don't take notes on your phone.
No, please don't.
I'll admit, I've gone to see productions of things that I knew were going to be a dumpster fire, and I brought a little journal and I wrote some notes down.
Absolutely.
Because it's better to keep your opinions silent until you are in the car ride home.
Don't do notes in-house. I say it all the time.
Wait until you are in that car and the doors are shut. Because you never know who's listening.
Yeah, and
You never know if the best friend of the lead is right next to you.
Yeah, or her family, or somebody who would punch you in the face for saying that.
Or the director.
And it's also just one of those things where, like, obviously everyone is allowed to have their own opinion about certain shows.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, one, your opinion is not the end-all be-all.
Correct.
But two, it's, again, a matter of respect.
Yes, absolutely.
Respect the space you are in and the people you are around.
Yes.
You think it'd be easier.
You would think. But unfortunately...
Good thing I don't.
But unfortunately, that's just kind of, it's a sign of the times, I guess, is that this is such a prevalent problem now.
Yeah. And I think that, do you think it's going to get worse before it gets better?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're seeing it now with, you know, protests actively happening during productions of things. And it's just like...
Yeah.
I don't want to get political, but like...
Yeah. No,
things are going to get worse.
Things are going to get worse before it gets better. And I think it's important to... If you're in a situation as an audience member and you notice that somebody else is being disruptive, you know, there is no shame in being the shusher. There isn't. Don't be a shusher to the point where you're now the disruption. You know, that can happen. But, like, there really is no shame in trying to de-escalate. And you'd actually be a huge help. But there's also a way to do it in a way that is still respectful. And I hope that there are people who continue to do that, you know, as long as you're not being an asshole about it.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
There's respectful boundaries.
Yep.
And if you're paying, especially now, if you're paying lots of money to go see either a Broadway show, off-Broadway, international, West End, no matter where you are, even community theater, you should respect people's time and space.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Wonderful.
And
wow.
So we're wrapping this up, which is so crazy because, you know, this is my first episode and I didn't think that this could happen like this, and I'm very happy to be here with all of you, and I'm really happy to be here with you, Sean.
Thank you for having me as the first guest. I'm so like honored and privileged.
Oh, and I adore you. And is anything going on in your world right now that you wanted to talk about?
A lot of the work that I do is with the Reading Theater Project. Reading is spelled like reading. You might have seen it on a Monopoly board. A lot of the work that I do is with them. They are a small theater company based in Reading, Pennsylvania, who prioritize new work or, you know, published work presented in new ways. We're always accepting donations, whether that be time, energy, or, you know, cash. So check them out. The website is readingtheaterproject.org.
Yep, we're going to put the link on screen as well as in the description so you can go and check them out because they do seriously some great work. Yeah,
just this past fall, we did a world premiere play by D.W. Gregory titled Intimate Exposures.
And it was awesome.
A lot of historically based things of, you know, Reading, Pennsylvania, and the greater kind of Berks County area. So, yeah.
Fantastic. I can't wait to see what's coming next for you there.
I'm so excited, too.
Yes. And so, with that, I'd like to say, you know, thank you so much for watching and listening listening. You know, you can watch us here, YouTube. We're going to be on Spotify. We got a Patreon. We're on Patreon. If you join the Ghostlight Gang for $5 a month, you get to see the entire unedited process that has been this time. I want you to look at the timestamp right now and see when this video ends. That's not when it really ended in real time, okay?
No.
And on Patreon, you get to see all of everything that we have said.
We've been here for a while.
We've been here for a while, and this is my house. So even I'm like, oh my God.
It's getting a little toasty in here.
Woo! Thank you all again. I want you to like, subscribe, punch that notification bell, because that's all YouTubers seem to say. My name is Marissa. You're the audience. Bye-bye now! Woo!